All right, so we are at 3 2. We'll just go ahead. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's panel discussion brought to you by the HR Association of India. At HREI, our mission is to create platforms that connect, inspire, and empower professionals through meaningful conversations and shared learning. I'm Neha Jagnani, and it's my pleasure to be your host for today's conversation. Our theme for today is Beyond Policies, Embedding Inclusion into Everyday Work Culture. Through this discussion, we will explore what it takes to create a culture where inclusion is not just an organizational objective, but a lived experience, one that enables individuals to feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute their best. Through this session, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat window. We'll make sure that they reach the panel. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this session, Ms. Beena Bilani. Beena is the Chief People Officer at Ascent Telecom Infrastructure and an award-winning HR leader with over 2 decades of experience across telecom, technology, mining, and global organizations. Having held leadership roles at Reliance Jio, Vedanta Resources, Wipro, and SLK Software, she is known for driving people, culture, and talent transformation. Recognized among India's top HR icons, Beena is a published author, sought after speaker, and advocate for building high performance, people centric workplaces. Without further ado, I now invite Beena to take over and lead us through this exciting discussion.
Thank you, Neha. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting the Dots. Today's session is a very important topic and close to all our hearts, embedding inclusion into everyday work culture. Thank you, audience, for joining us, and thank you, Team HRIA, for having us here. Let me introduce our wonderful, esteemed panelists now. Dr. Kavindra Pant is the Global CHRO at Shapoorji Pallonji Energy with over 3 decades of HR leadership experience across infrastructure, energy, insurance, logistics sectors. He is known for driving organizational transformation, talent strategy, employer branding, and people excellence to support sustainable business growth. Having held leadership roles at organizations including Mahanagar Gas, HDFC Ergo, and TNT India, Dr. Pant is recognized as a leading HR voice and has received multiple accolades for workplace excellence and people leadership. You want to say hello, Dr. Kavindra?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, HRAI, for inviting us out here and looking forward for a meaningful discussion and a conversation.
Thank you.
Back
Thank you,
to
Dr. Pant. Yeah, thank you. We're moving on to Sarika Saini, Global Head Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Birlasoft, part of CK Birla Group. She's been instrumental in shaping and institutionalizing the organization's DEI vision over the past 8 years. She led the development of Birlasoft's DEI charter, embedding inclusion into core business processes through clear goals, governance, and measurable outcomes. Anchored in 3 key pillars: affirmative hiring, sensitization, and development of diverse talent, her efforts have significantly strengthened representation, employee experience, progression, and retention across the organization. Welcome, Sarika. Do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I had a bad internet. I guess I disconnected for a while, but I was bang on time. Of the COE and DEI at Soft, 25 experience. DEI for me to talk about more and thank you.
Right. From where I see it, I see your connection slightly broken, Sarika. If you want to try reconnecting again, and then we can also have the introduction once you're back.
Sure.
probably just a suggestion, Sarika, because the video takes a lot of bandwidth. If you can switch off your video, that may help.
Can you hear me now?
We can
Little
hear
better,
you,
but still.
Yeah. With a couple of words breaking
Let
in
me
between.
reconnect. You can. Okay, you can
Please
start.
carry on.
I
Right.
will reconnect. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarika, and welcome. Moving on, Dr. Rajkumar VP is a distinguished HR leader with over 26 years of experience driving business transformation through culture, capability, and people strategy across global organizations. Having led HR functions across industries, including petrochemicals, oil and gas, logistics, automotive, technology, and financial services, he is known for delivering measurable impact through organizational growth, workforce transformation, and operational excellence. A recognized thought leader, he combines deep expertise in HR, organization development, HR analytics, and Gen AI to build future ready organizations and high performing teams. Welcome, Dr. Rajkumar.
Thank you so much, Veena. Uh, Good afternoon, all. I'm sure today will be an excellent, opportunity to listen from a lot of senior stalwarts. I'm looking forward to my learning too today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar. Moving on, Dr. Tanaya Mishra is a seasoned HR leader at InSolutions Global Limited with over 22 years of experience driving business transformation through people, culture, and leadership. Her distinguished career includes leadership roles as Managing Director APAC at Accenture, Global CHRO at Strides, SVP at JSW Group, and CHRO at ACC and Shoppers Stop. She is widely recognized for leading organizational transformation, developing future-ready talent, and building high-performance cultures through innovative and people-centric HR. Welcome, Dr. Mishra.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute delight to be here. Actually, I have 30 years of work experience and 22 years as a CHR.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you, thank you. And noted 30, right? All right, we'll move on to the discussion now, and I hope the audience is looking forward to this wonderful discussion on a very, very important topic. All right. Many organizations have inclusion policies, but inclusion is not experienced in day-to-day work and interactions. What does truly embedding inclusion into everyday work culture look like in practice to you, Dr. Kavindra?
Ah, Thank you, Bina. A wonderful question. And primarily, when we look at inclusion, primarily from a policy perspective, then it will just be the vision on the wall and nothing, the values on the wall, but nothing gets implemented out there. It has to be part of the culture. Primarily, when we look at it, has to be in the blood of the organization that how inclusion has to be taken up. From my perspective, we also faced this challenge initially, and from the perspective of hiring, that these people will go on a mat leave, or if someone is about to get mat. Just to give you a background, that we are a project-based organization. We deal in offshore oil and gas, where the project duration ranges from 3 to 4 years for the complete EPCIC of the project, and we hire people for those particular projects and those particular periods only. So there, typically, when we look at the hiring managers, they have their own choices and the own biases. So what we did was that we came back to them that if someone is going on a long leave, we'll give you a replacement. You bargained, and we tried to bring them on board to bring this that bias towards a different gender is not there. Though in our case, we look at diversity slightly different, since we are operating in multiple geographies, and we are working with 18 nationalities out there. So we look at racial diversity, we look at religious diversity, and the kind of formation what we have created, or the kind of culture what we have created, is that everyone is included. It it is reflected in the behaviors of people. It is reflected in the voices, that every voice has to be heard, whether it is coming from one diverse sector or the other. The second thing is involvement in the decision making, that how people can be involved in the decision making across levels. So these are some of the areas where we have focused more on. Then we have also looked at that what are the kind of unconscious biases, so which are coming, maybe in terms of the performance management process, in terms of promotion recommendations, in terms of hiring. Like hiring, I gave you an example. Initially, some of the people who were sitting at the leadership roles were primarily from India or Indian origin. So the first preference was towards the Indian. So we said we had to put our foot down that we'll not be hiring Indians if we are hiring in Malaysia. or any other location. So that at times you have to bring up to people. Second is you have to live with people. Third is you have to confront people as well. That Malaysia being the oil and gas hub, if the talent is required, if you are looking at Indian talent, why don't we shift our base to Malaysia, from Malaysia to India? So you have to be logical and taking them upfront in terms of driving this unconscious biases. Then, when we are talking about um, collaboration, uh, so primarily it has to be a respectful collaboration that nobody should be looked down the from the prima facie reason of his background, whether it is in terms of the race, whether it is in terms of the gender, or whether it is in terms of the uh, kind of discipline or the role he is playing. So that is something what we have beautifully designed and inculcated within the organization, that this has, it's a big no. Then we are holding people accountable. We are holding the managers and the leaders accountable for this behaviors. Not HR is not the custodian. The managers and the disciplines and the functional leaders are the custodian for this. So these are some of the areas where we have focused on, and we have built up an environment where everyone, nobody has complaints, everyone is being treated equally, and they have taken up. Uh, um you won't believe my attrition levels are less in single digit against the industry standards of around 18 to 24% ranges every year. So that's how we have built it up in terms of the overall processes.
That's good. And thank you, Dr. Kavindra. I think some very important things that you said. We don't have values just on the wall. I think it's a very strong point to take back and involve everyone in decision making. I think it's going to be so effective because when you get diverse perspectives, you can really make sense of different topics that are coming your way and really make a sound decision because you've considered everybody else. One thing that I do have an observation on, though, is that I think that Indians are absolutely great leaders and wonderful professionals, and I would love to see Indians go conquer the world, regardless of the geography. So that's my dream. So yeah. All right.
I
I'll
agree
move
with
on to
you, but
sorry.
but
Yeah.
the thought is that if you're
Yeah.
opening up an office at any other overseas location, you cannot have all Indians working out there. So that
Yeah.
was the point which I was trying to make, that you have to have the local talent as well, and if they are not at par, you have to groom them up, build them up to
Right.
take up the senior positions.
All right, Sarika. What are some small but powerful
Small
leadership
but powerful
behaviors?
leadership behaviors.
Am I
Am
echoing?
I echoing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Veena, you can hear me because I'm taking it from my mobile phone. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
hear
I
you,
can hear you,
Sarika, but
Sarika.
we are all
We are
echoing.
all echoing. I don't know. I can hear you clearly.
All
All
right.
right.
Sarika, if you could
Sarika, if you could
mute
mute
mute one of
mute
the
one of the
instruments,
instruments,
mobile or
mobile
the
or
laptop,
the laptop,
then the echo
then
will
the
not
echo
be.
will not be. Okay, 1 second. Is it better?
Let's check.
I think so.
I think so.
No.
Because I have
No,
logged off from the laptop.
no, I think
No,
still
I
we are
think
getting
still we
echo.
are getting echo. So is it from my side? Can you hear me clearly or no?
We can hear
We
you,
can
but
hear
Yes,
you,
please
we are
go
but
hearing
on
you.
please go
mute.
on mute.
You,
And
you
once
And once
Beena
Veena
speaks, you can
speaks, you
probably
can
unmute
probably
yourself.
unmute yourself. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Check. Okay. Sarika, what are some small but powerful leadership behaviors that make employees feel included, valued, and heard, regardless of their role, gender, background, or tenure?
Thanks, Veena. And you can hear me clearly, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm not switching on the camera for the lack of bandwidth. And this is my
Okay.
favorite question. I think for the last 25 plus years, I've been, saying and demonstrating and training people about it. And I would say that psychological safety is not defined by what leaders say, as Kavindra was also saying, but by how they respond when things go wrong, right? So inclusion is more about belongingness, and leaders have to really adopt those intentional behaviors which really bestow a lot of trust, inclusion, and engagement. And I'm not saying that this is all written in the DEI policy and everything, but I have certainly seen in various organizations, and I would not name them, toxicity is still there, and that is because of the lack of maturity. I really don't know. Even at leadership level, I have seen sometimes people go into their own ego state. So you can refer to the transactional analysis and all to understand that, right? So that is one. But when it comes to behaviors, I would say first is making people feel belonged and modeling that vulnerability and openness yourself. You should have that authenticity and courage to really accept your own mistakes. You should be able to tell your failures and success stories, right? So it's not only about success all the time. We have failed a number of times, right? So, and obviously not blaming people. And I have seen whatever we say, sometimes people have favorites. So as we were saying earlier, we really need to cut the biases. We need to be aware of those assumptions which we bestow in the workplace. Sorry. And we have to see that there should be no favorites, and we should promote that fairness in all decisions. And I have seen sometimes people, though, they have sarcasm, or there is eye rolling on, giving negative reactions to people. So I read somewhere an acronym which I really liked, which is called Lead Safe. So basically, listening actively, empathizing deeply, asking and involving wholeheartedly. De-risk failure means giving that freedom to fail, support growth, act fairly, foster openness, and enable that voice. And I think by embracing these behaviors, leaders can really cultivate psychological safety and some meaningful collaboration. And honestly, one disclaimer I would still say, very nicely, beautiful written policies, but everybody has to support that authentically. Until and unless that happens, we can still get a GPTW, but we will not be there. We really have to see how we make others feel. Because at the end of the day, I really believe in a lot of spiritual leadership principles. At the end of the day, we have to live a meaningful life, which should be beautiful for ourselves and others. Thank you, Veena.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarika. Thank you, Sarika. Some very valuable things you said, like observe people when things go wrong. I think it's very, very important for all of us to stay so aware and look at our own selves and then the other leaders and our teams of how when things are when full of tension, or when there's too much pressure, when there's too much deadline, when there's a lot of focus on performing. So when the pressure increases so much, or when everything goes wrong, then how do people behave? I think it's a very, very interesting observation to have. Also, how do we continue to remain vulnerable, and how do we make somebody feel like they belong here, even if they're new, or if they don't have a large team, or if they're working on their own, or if they're feeling isolated or confused? How do we make each and every individual feel like they belong to the organization and that they cared for? I think and then how to embrace success and failure both together. I think very, very valuable inputs that you've given, Sarika. Thank you so much for them. Dr. Rajkumar, it is relatively easy to be inclusive when things are going well, picking up from the previous question, right? But how do leaders ensure that inclusion doesn't get sidelined during periods of high pressure, business change, or crisis? So we spoke about how it is important to continue to be inclusive, but how to do it is not very clear in this discussion as of now. So let's venture there.
Sure. Thank you, Beena. And my predecessors in this session did answer very valuable points for this question as well. But let me talk about this. This is a very important question, because in my experience, inclusion is not truly tested during stable periods. It is tested during uncertainty, right? When business is performing well, resources are available, emotions are manageable, and people naturally feel more connected. But when the crisis comes, a restructuring happens, a merger happens, or a market downturn is happening, or even an intern's project deadline, leaders often become focused on speed and results. We all, that's exactly when inclusion is most at risk. I believe that three things are very important. When you talk about leaders during stages of crisis or stages of pressure. First, we have to communicate more, not less. During pressure situations, information gaps create anxiety, and anxiety creates exclusion. Employees begin to feel decisions are happening around them rather than with them. And that's where inclusive leaders increase communication frequency, even if they don't have all the answers. That's very critical. And people can handle uncertainty, but it is much better than silence, uncertainty much better than silence. So that's very important. Second, I believe whatever I could, go through some of these challenges in my career, uh, I always believe that you need to expand this circle before making critical decisions. We as leaders in high pressure situations, we tend to go to the same trusted inner circle and, and discuss with them and then take a call. I feel that by doing that, there are some blind spots, and the best leaders deliberately ask whose voice we have not heard yet or whose voice we have missed out. I think this simple question often brings very, very interesting and very, very innovative and diverse thought process from people whom we have generally, don't look at it during a high pressure situation or a very uh, tight schedule situation. That's where I talk about the expanding the circle and then see, is there any voice we missed out? Can we hear them out? That's what is the second thing I would say during a crisis situation or a pressure situation. The third, I always believe that as leaders, and I, as someone who strongly believes in servant leadership, we need to lead with empathy without compromising the accountability. I think empathy, when I say empathy, we think we are lowering standards. Actually, it doesn't. Empathy means understanding that different people experience the same crisis differently, the same situation differently. And how do I, as a leader, look at it? It could be a new employee or a working parent or a women employee going through a difficult situation at home or health challenges. Each one looks at the same, go through the same crisis in a different way and experiences differently. So the expectation of performance remains the same, but the pathway to success may need flexibility. And that's where, as leaders, we show the empathy especially during a high pressure situation or a crisis situation. Overall, my last 27 years of HR and management and entrepreneurial journey, I've observed that organizations that emerge strongest from crisis are not necessarily having the best strategies, but they often are the ones which employees felt respected, felt heard, and included throughout the journey. I think the most important thing I would like to say is that pressure doesn't create culture, but it reveals the culture of the organization, of the team. And inclusive leaders ensure that every voice still matters, especially when the stakes are highest. So my three things which I spoke about is communicate more, expand your circle, and be empathetic in hand in hand with accountability.
Absolutely valuable inputs, Dr. Rajkumar. Thank you so much. I think very important that we remember that inclusion is tested in uncertainty, and it continues to remain important that we observe how people behave when we are in times of uncertainty, right? How we need to communicate more and not less when things get difficult, and how we need to balance empathy with accountability. Pressure reveals the culture is also something that is, I think, so important to remember, because we can all talk about culture when everything is normal, but when things get tough, what is it that people are actually doing and saying reveals a lot. So, of course, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajkumar.
Thank you.
I will move on to Dr. Tanaya, right? Can you tell us of any two initiatives that you have seen succeeding in this space?
Okay, so firstly, I would like to, my views are slightly, how should I say,
Different.
contrary to,
Yeah.
yes. So I don't think
We
that
are we are inclusive.
LGBTQ,
We
Yes.
are
yes,
inclusive.
absolutely. So I would not like to say that LGBTQ and DEI are, the way we are looking at inclusion. I think inclusion means a lot more. I think inclusion means inclusion of culture,
Yeah.
being very cohesive as a team, having our vision, mission, values, and an overall objective which combines the entire organization to be able to do something more, right? Um, and it's all about teamwork and goals. So two pieces which have really worked in any organization. One is communication. I'll keep it brief because you have a couple of other questions. I think communication. You cannot not communicate. I think it's over communication is never something which is there, but it's very important to have all streams across. You have to have the last uh, block of human resources or people who really understand what it is that you're doing, whether you're bringing in agents, if you're an agentic AI, if you are bringing in generative AI, immaterial of where you are, digitization, people need to know what is it that the organization is planning. So one successful piece for any organization is communication. The second, and it's for everybody here in this, is walk the talk. Any leader has to walk the talk. Anybody, any peer, anything that you're doing, nothing is very small. Everything that one is doing as part of one's life, whether it's an entrepreneur or an individual contributor, everybody's work is meaningful. So ensuring that you are doing what is best for you, so walking that talk of what is it that you represent. So and it is across, but I will keep it brief. Yes, I'm Bina.
Absolutely. And thank you. Very, very important. Over communication is not a problem. Continue to walk the talk, right? I think if we handle these two simple things, a lot of problems get erased at the start itself. Thank you so much for that. Right? Moving on to Dr. Kavindra. Many organizations have improved representation. The next challenge is ensuring everyone has an equal voice and opportunity to influence decisions. How can leaders make that shift from representation to genuine participation? Can you unmute yourself, please?
It's a Bina, I'll again go back to my previous response that whether the values or the values are in poster on the wall or it is basically implemented, and this is the same question. So the purpose out here needs to be seen whether we are looking at creating a presence or creating an impact through the DEI aspect. Right? That is the simple question. So my thoughts are what I'll agree with Tanaya. What she said is communication is holds the key. But what are we communicating and how are we demonstrating it? That is something which is more important. Like we people talk about it, but they do not. It is not seen in their behaviors. So where I'm coming from is creating a level of trust within the organization. And I totally agree with Dr. Tanaya. What she said is that it has to be looked at from a different lens, which is beyond the gender and LGBTQ and things like that. Right. So that is my point as well, that we are not looking at gender only as a uh, diversity initiative. So
Right.
what we have done is we have created a level of trust within the organization. I can tell you that in my organization, even if the CEO comes late, people can tell him on his face that you have wasted other people's time. So that is the level of empowerment and authority which has been provided. So that happens when the trust is being built up. The second thing in this is that there is a sense of psychological safety also being created. That yes, if someone is doing wrong, he can be questioned. Thirdly, very important, we have to trust. Again, I'm referring to the same point, trust. We do not monitor attendance of our people.
Mhm.
No matter what time you are coming, what time you are going, we are least bothered. No moral policing. We are here to deliver a job. And since we are a project-based organization, everything is monitored based on the project progress. So whether you are sitting for 2 hours or 20 hours, you deliver. And that has made people accountable, more accountable towards their job. When job is not there, they come to office for 2 hours. They tell their boss, I'm going. I have something urgent at home. I cannot come to office. I'll be working from home. Manager also agrees to it. They also just communicate the only one thing, for these are the deliverables, focus on it. Whether you are coming from working from office, working from home, that is perfectly fine with us. So that's how the trust has been created. Second, what we have done is we have created various forums, including the smoking uh, people for smokers who are there. We have forum for that as well. So we get voices. The third most important thing what we have done is our informal channel is very strong, especially in terms of our network. I'm talking from an HR perspective. In any of the geographies, anything happens, we are the first one to know. Even the local managers are not aware. So these things have helped us in creating it. The second thing is whenever there is a need for people, we are the first one to be available from the organization side, and they feel safe and secured within the organization, and there is a level of trust build up in this organization. Though we are competing with all our competitors are probably uh, 10 times bigger than us in the global markets, but we have been successful in retaining our talent, and the number talks about it. We are not the best of the paymasters, but the culture and the environment what we have provided to people, the level of trust, empowerment which is there with people is certainly playing well for us. That's my
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think very, very important to remind ourselves if we are driving presence or we're driving impact. Again, importance on communication gets reiterated about how much ever you communicate. I think it's okay. It's not important to stop at a certain place, but how and what you're communicating is also important. How participation is driven by trust is something that all of us need to remind ourselves of, either on the agenda of inclusion or culture or anything else that we're trying to drive in HR or within the organization. And we keep wondering why people don't want to participate. Uh, I think trust and participation go hand in hand, right? And how it is important to continue to meet people's needs and make them feel comfortable wherever they are in the organization. And that's how you retain the best talent. Good. And thank you so much for that. Right?
Veena, I just missed on one thing,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we have become a facilitator rather than the process owner.
Right, right,
Right, that has also helped us. We are not saying that HR is the owner of this process. It is basically the organizational process, and you all are the owners. Where the
correct.
ownership shifts, they see it as their own process, and that has really helped us in driving any of the initiatives, whether it is diver inclusion, whether it is performance management, whether it is compensation management. So we involve everyone, and we say we are just the process facilitator. We are not the process owners. We are just
Right.
controlling and monitoring the process. Process is yours. That has
Absolutely.
helped.
I think it
That
makes a
that
huge
again
difference.
talks about empowerment.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We're moving on to Sarika. Employees are more likely to contribute ideas and challenge assumptions when they feel psychologically safe. What have you found to be the most effective ways of creating that environment within your teams?
Thanks, Beena. And the questions are connected. I would say that in terms of initiatives, I will speak now. And one thing before that, you can hear me, right, Beena?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a big proponent of Belbin team roles. I'm sure you all must have heard it. I have organized around, rather, I have trained, I have been a master trainer of Belbin myself. When I was with John Deere and taking care of LND, I had 70 workshops on team building, having Belbin. So this actually propagates, and you all are aware, it really propagates that everybody is involved on the team, whether they are action oriented, whether they are people oriented, whether they are thinking oriented. And we used to really tell them, and here also in Birla Soft, we tell them that, there must be people on your team who are very quiet, right? And a extrovert person like me who is having a bias, maybe, right? I am obviously unbiased. If the people who are biased, they may think, oh, this guy, this girl is not speaking, right? This person is not speaking. Correct. So maybe the person doesn't have ideas. But when you probe into it and when you become a real coordinator, when you really become a team builder, you will make that person speak, and you will be surprised to understand that the person who was the most silent one was the most knowledgeable one. And maybe the person nailed the thing. So a good leader will always see that everybody participates. So that is why I'm a big proponent of Belbin, and which I propagate in the organization also. And in terms of initiatives, I would say that we have a very good design, building an inclusive workplace program, wherein we teach that there has to be a self reflection, how you can pause, how you can question your stereotypes, various allyship workshops we have, right? And also external people like Harki, they come and speak to us, and other people. We believe that, yes, the behavior I have already talked about in the earlier question, but we believe in the genuine, what do we say, development of people. So it's not only about gender, it is also about PWDs and veterans, and obviously LGBTQs. We have not gone to an extent of inclusion that I can really do a gaga about it. But yes, we are there and we are doing it. So very good framework. So for women, I would say we are having the cohort 4, more than 87 women leaders we have developed for the succession pipeline. And we teach our leaders that you need to really understand the challenges. It should not be just that you're hearing it and going. So there is a very focused returnship program wherein we teach managers not to have assumptions that the women who are returning, they will not have a zeal to contribute, right? So we also talk to women how okay you are to contribute, how we can re-assimilate them, how we can reskill them. So a very good returnship program we have, and we are seeing 85% of retention for our women through that. And we also say, I mean, we have a grievance mechanism, we have a like a DI council, so to people can really reach out to wherever there is a stance wherein the fairness and equity is not being demonstrated. So we say that you don't have to be a bystander, you can always come and see us. So that is how we are propagating it. And for the last 5 years, I think we have been doing good in the DEI space.
I think you mentioned a lot. It is so important. If you can please mute. Yes. It's so much inspiration for everybody to do all the things that you said, because I think it creates so much value what you're doing. And so grateful for that. I think one, inviting the quiet people in is so important. Self-respect, self-reflection, most important aspect when one moves to the leadership rung, right? The initiatives you spoke about, where you have 87 women leaders in the succession pipeline, your program for returnship, and the DEI Council. I think some very elementary but very, very critical things that if we have and if we run them effectively in an organization, we can actually create a lot more value for what we are doing in the DEI space together. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarika. Moving on to Dr. Tanaya. Name 2 things that must be absolutely avoided while driving inclusion within our organizations.
There was a question and I was just answering.
You've gone on mute. You've gone on mute.
So there was a question which I've been trying to respond to some of the questions. It says one of the questions says, why inclusion matters so much? And I was telling the person, let me, who's this? I'm sorry, it says M. So I was going to ask a question. Let me ask a question. Can we all live just by ourselves? That's not possible, right? We are all social beings and we need each other to survive in the world, right? So I was answering that question. So Beena, to your question, so you said what are the two things that are
That must be absolutely avoided while driving inclusion.
must be avoided? So look, see it. Okay, so let me break it down to be very, very simple. I think it's very essential for us to be human and humane and to have respect for each other. I think these are very simple values which one can practice and ensure that you are able to understand. So unless you have um, respect and you are able to be at the same level as somebody, it is very, very difficult. So I think the things that must be avoided, I think more than avoid, I think what you need to do is learn to respect, be open, and care, be human. That's all. Just be human and humane. Two words.
Human, humane, respect, and care. Absolute
That's it.
fundamentals. Let's remind ourselves of this every time. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tanaya. We will take Dr. Rajkumar next. If every manager in the organization could adopt just one habit tomorrow to make their teams more inclusive, what would you want that habit to be and why?
Thanks, Beena. I spoke about communication in my earlier question. I go to the other side of the spectrum. I think stop communicating and listen. That's the most important thing. I would say listen with an intent, and listen with an intent to understand. Right? I think that's the most important habit one should immediately start from tomorrow or today. I would say that let me put it in perspective. If you as a leader can make it as a daily practice to call, intentionally invite one voice or one person who hasn't been heard, or somebody whom you have not communicated, make it as a habit. Every day, one new person, a new voice whom you have not spoken, whose voice has not been heard. Right? That itself is a simple but very powerful habit that could change, it could influence and impact the organization, the team culture, the organization culture. See, in most of the meetings, I work across globally, had opportunity to work global organizations. Any part of the world you go, the most important thing any human, as Tanaya said, every human person wants them to be heard, right? They have to be recognized and heard. So whether even you don't know the language, I have an experience where I sat with someone who spoke very little English and I know very little Dutch, but still I could able to be with the person and just listen, just spend some time, and that helped the person, and then we had connected well and become a good friend. And colleague, and now it's a good, continue to be a good friend. So it's about you being there with an intent to listen, with an intent to try to understand. And in many of the organization across, we often hear generally what we do in any meetings, any program we go, we normally hear the same from the same people, same type of set of people who express their, they could be, it's not that extroverts always speak, but people who always speak out, and the most confident, the most vocal, the most experienced. I think when their contributions are valuable, innovation, engagement, inclusion suffers while other voices remain silent. I think end of the day, it's very important for us to ask these questions. Hey, Vishwa, what do you think about this? You've been silent for the whole day. Hi, Beena. What do you think about this particular thing? I would like to really hear it from you. These are those questions that, as a leader, if you ask, that changes the entire environment, and that brings the culture. I think that's very important. And when we start looking at when people feel their opinions matter, and several things happen simultaneously. They feel they're respected, recognized, engagement increases, as Mr. Pant said, trust increases, innovation. I think all these whatever valuable values and aspects what the speaker spoke about starts with a simple habit of listening with an intent to understand, from the individual. And that's what I would like to say, that, if you could start as one habit, and, that could impact the organization, and not just listening to respond. Most of us, we always listen to respond, but I think listening to understand is very important. And that intent is what I'm talking about. I think most inclusive leaders are not those with the loudest voices. They are the ones who create the most space for other voices. I think I just picked up this quote up from unknown, but I think it's very, very profound that you don't. If you're really an inclusive leader, you don't have to. It's not need not be a loudest voice. It needs to be someone who creates space for others to voice out, and that's
Absolutely.
one habit I would like to suggest.
No, very important. I think creating space, listening with intent, the intent to understand somebody, and intentionally inviting somebody to speak. I think very, very important behaviors that if we follow, we can really drive inclusion in its true spirit. And now our formal list of questions is done. Thank you. You have been a great panel, all of you. Thank you so much for your contribution. And I hand over the mic to Neha now for taking up any audience questions and giving them back to the panel.
Sure, Veena, thank you so much. Thank you to dear panelists for sharing your valuable insights and perspectives. We'll just move to this quick Q&A. I'll just pick up the last three questions. I think questions before that have been answered by Dr. Tanaya in the chat window. Thank you so much for that. These questions will be open to any speaker. Feel free to address these. One is from Balaji, which says, how an HR can make sure that everyone is included in the hybrid work culture? What challenges HR faces and how they can handle effectively?
I can give you some basic examples of what I've done if you would like to hear. Uh, Even in hybrid, even geographically spread cultures, this helps a lot. I think one is I give updates to the team regularly, and I encourage the other leaders also to do the same, right? So it doesn't matter if the update is relevant to them directly or not, but I think a business update or a functional update is very, very important as to what is happening in the organization. And then I also like to share the vision or anything new that we're doing, new initiatives that we have, the vision of the organization or any function, plans for the next year. It's very important to share it because it's also a great opportunity, I think, for leaders to observe where the spark is in the organization, because somebody will pick up something from what you say and run with it. They will help you achieve that vision. They'll help you translate it into a project, or they might tell you about the blind spots. There are many people who are interested in doing things once the vision is known. So I think it's important to share it with everybody, observe where the spark is, and then invest more time in those people, because everybody else, it's okay if some people are numb towards anything that's happening, and we need different types of people, and it's okay if people want to focus on their defined jobs. We have different kinds in an organization, but if you observe a spark somewhere, then that's where your next investment should be in. I think these are two things that I do here.
Sure. Thank you, Bina, for addressing that. Moving on to the next question, it's from Megha. It says, how can organizations measure whether employees genuinely feel included beyond engagement surveys and diversity metrics?
Any of the panelists want to take?
Sorry, can I take that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just one second. So you know what? We have two kinds of surveys, and I'm sorry if somebody can take up. I'm just one second. Just one second. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So, though we have two kinds of surveys, one is the GPTW survey, another one is an internal survey, and we look at the findings and we look at the action planning, and we propagate. But then addressing what the question is, apart from that, we have forums like Speak Up. We have forums like wherein the leaders are coming up and they are meeting people in smaller groups at every location. So in an year, there are about 150 forums like this. I think those kind of things are really going to the depth of it. I know and can understand that in a survey, there is a random population which is being taken. So sometimes it can be skewed, right? So I think you need to talk. The idea is only communication. So yes, these two things, Speak Up and MYPP program, is really helping us to get the real difficulties of people and addressing them. Thanks.
Sure, sure.
May I make an attempt, if that's fine? So my first answer to the question, which was on hybrid culture. Listen, today we are in the day of AI. If you're using Claude, or if you're using AI Bob, or if you are in the agentic space where you're running agents, what happens is you're creating dashboards, immediately. So what happens is, there are multiple apps, and you can actually see what is happening real time. We're in fact building, for 190 countries, where you can see real life uh, payment gateways, which means that the transactions are happening, which are online. So which means that it can also therefore happen to people as well. So today is a very, very fast paced organization. So you can use a lot of AI tools to be actually engage with people, and people know what is happening immediately, whether you're in a hybrid, as long as you have this phone. To I believe Tesla has got some other phone where you can use it in a different planet. The next one, in terms of employee engagement, I think it's beyond employee engagement surveys. I think it's about engaging with employees and understanding that they're happy, they're motivated, that they really want to belong to the organization, because then employees vote with their feet. Today, there are a lot of young, dynamic. In fact, I'm trying to help this young. You can look them up. They're called hobby tribes. They actually are able to conduct worldwide events for your employees to bring them all together. Just a 27-year-old boy. He is just, has a 64-year-old intern. So I think things are, we have to challenge status quo. So it's beyond surveys, it's beyond diversity matrices. We are constantly, as professionals, we have to constantly innovate. We have to constantly understand what is the change around us, because change is only constant, and we have to reskill, upskill ourselves, right? So those are my two bits.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Tanaya.
I would like to add few points, especially on you talked about metrics. See, there are tools like Workday and even SAP SuccessFactors have brought in a few features where every touch points of an employee life cycle, employee experience, you have a quick survey, quick feedbacks in your mobile itself. You go through one program, immediately you can capture how the employee feels about this. Just one way which can capture from a data and metric point of view. But I feel more than that, as a leader in an organization, you also need to understand that we are all excited to initiate programs, but we never evaluate what happens after we implement it. I'm talking about typical, culture atrophy or initiatives atrophy, where what happens, we go ahead and implement a program, 2, 3 years it runs, then slowly it dies down. You initiate a cultural program, you work on it, you know, create loud noise about it, and then over a period of time it dies down. I always believe that among your HR dashboards and metrics, you also look at your existing initiatives and what is the state and how the engagement happens in each of these initiatives. Is your mentoring talent pool or mentors pool is increasing or reducing? Their engagement is reducing. For example, I'm just giving, okay. Are your internal trainers pool is increasing or reducing? Their engagement, what is the level of engagement? What is their level of involvement in initiatives? you are creating small group activities, the same type of people who are again and again participating, and how you are expanding that circle. All these different elements we have to look at for programs which are already, implemented and running as well. So as HR has moved away from being in the front to drive it, HR is always a catalyst. HR is always um, um, a, a champion who builds the champion leaders to drive the initiative. So that way you have a lot of opportunity to look at these elements in terms of, what is the cycle of these programs, initiatives, and how do we keep improvising it? How do we kaizen it? How do we bring in continuous improvement on this? I think that's a way you can again genuinely, measure such engagement initiatives. It's not just what I'm trying to say in one liner. Don't just initiate a program, implement a program, but also keep measuring it, keep looking at it, and keep reviving it. And that way you can genuinely, build more stronger engagement initiatives.
Sure.
I will
Thank you.
take up the next question. There is one question Shivakumar has asked, which I've already answered. If you see, during the organizational changes such as mergers and acquisitions or crisis, that's what I spoke about. But the first question I answered. Basically, we need to communicate. We need to expand the circle of people who are getting involved during decisions. And third, empathy. These are the simple steps which you could, you know, uh, bring it up so that during the change process or the stage in which the organization goes through high pressure, you can manage inclusion.
Sure. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Rajkumar. I think
Just one point I have. When we talk about matrices, your biggest metrics is your attrition. Where I've seen organization engagement score high and the attrition is equally high, right?
True.
So my thoughts are slightly different on this. It is basically you may run events, you may run engagement sessions, you do anything. But till the time that one-on-one touch is not there with people, with their managers and HR. The managers, 90% of the time, they talk only work because the pressures are there. So it is what the success, why our attritions are low, is primarily because we have maintained that touch with the people. Even no matter what situation, what pressures are there, I myself talk to at least around 5 to 7 people in a week, and the same instructions are there for my team. And you have to connect with at least around 10 to 15 people in a week so that you know what exactly people are feeling. That surveys, people have paucity of time. Nobody looks at the question. They just look at what is good, what is bad. And then they know that the surveys will never be anonymous unless it is being done externally. So reports will always talk positive about it, but the real metrics, what you can touch base on, is whether your attrition is going up or down. If your attrition is up, engagement surveys are also showing 98% or above that, means there is something wrong. Connect with people, build up that level of trust. That will help.
sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Kavindra, and everybody for addressing that. This brings us to the end of this discussion. Thank you, Beena, for driving this discussion so beautifully. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your perspective and the audience for joining us today. We hope the insights shared today inspire you to reflect upon the fact that each one of us can contribute to building more inclusive, more respected, and empowering workplaces. We look forward to welcoming you to our upcoming sessions as well and continuing these, important conversations. Our next discussion is on the culture advantage, building a workplace that attracts, retains, and inspire talent. It is scheduled on 2nd of July. And until then, stay inspired and stay connected. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Neha.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.